Hi everybody, we welcome you to Hockey 101 with Pete Weber today. I'm Barry Gresham, Associate Professor of Sports Communication at Austin Peay State University. We have a couple of our classes here today as we're going to learn about hockey from one of the best in the business. Not only one of the best announcers in the NHL, but one of the best in all sports. Pete Weber is here. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Now, Barry, after that introduction, how much do I owe you?
We'll work that out a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, especially at lunch. Anyway, Pete is the only voice of the Nashville Predators since their inception in 1998, was named the team's voice, 26 seasons under his belt, over 2,200 games, I think, or close to it at this point. Season number 27 begins Thursday night with the Dallas Stars in town. So, Pete, do you still, I know at 27 years, do you still at this point in the season when you're a couple of days away from dropping the puck, do the butterflies, do the juices get going?
If I don't have them, I better quit, because seriously, that's what drives you. Are you properly prepared for the year? As of now, I am not really prepared for the puck to drop on Thursday night. I know it's going to happen. I know what I have to do between now and then, but absolutely I have the butterflies.
Sounds good, and you're exactly right. If you don't have them, there is a problem. We need to check your pulse.
That's right.
It's going to be an exciting season with all the changes in the offseason. We'll get into that in a moment as far as the preview of the team. But you made an announcement recently as well, as far as your travel schedule, which games you'll be doing. Let the fans know what's going on.
I'm going to do only 8 road games beginning this year. So I'm going to some of my favorite cities, and you might not agree with my judgment about what my favorite cities are, but I'm going to go to Buffalo, where I lived for 20 years. I'm going to go to Pittsburgh, which I still have bad memories from the Stanley Cup final from a few years ago. I'm going to go to Chicago. My family's from there. Then I'm going to go to my first NHL home, Los Angeles, as part of a West Coast trip. And then I'm going to, now keep in mind, I started in the NHL in 1978 with the LA Kings. So when we go to Utah for the first time in April, that will be my 66th NHL venue that I have worked in. So I just wanted to add to those numbers if I possibly can. And in Utah, we're going to be able to see them open the season tonight, not threatened by Hurricane Milton or anything like that in Utah right now. Still some question perhaps whether they might have some difficulty in South Florida tonight for the banner racing for the Florida Panthers. So we learned something from COVID. Keep your schedule in pencil. Don't put it down in ink, because you have to be versatile enough to be able to make those adjustments at the last possible instant. Do we have any questions? Yes?
For overtime for the 3 players, what would you say is like the best overall strategy if you're only putting 3 players on the ice?
The one thing that everybody understands now is how important puck possession is. So if you get the puck and carry it back, now there's been some talk about changing the rule so that you can't sort of take the puck back out as you would in half-court basketball and then come back up with the puck. But the best thing is to just keep weaving until you get somebody so dizzy they can't keep track of you defensively. Just weave with the puck. That's really what, unless you have Alex Ovechkin, let him go stand in the left circle, get the pass and blast it past the goaltender, but that's too simplistic. Is there another question over here? Yes?
Offsides has nothing to do with the defending team, it's just a certain point on the field, I guess, that you can't pass.
Right. So the defensive team has very little, if any, impact on it, other than setting somebody up with a check at center ice, or even checking them into the offensive zone ahead of the puck. Okay? Other questions? Yes, sir?
What makes a good NHL defense?
Yeah.
The way they play the puck, or the way they position themselves, or overall what would you say?
Good combination there. Size, speed, positioning, and ability to handle the puck cleanly. That's the big thing. So the guy that is out of the lineup right now, Drew Doughty for the Los Angeles Kings with a broken toe or whatever, He's going to be out for a bit, but he is a great complement, all of those aspects of the game. And we have an ex-Predator who's going into the Hockey Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks, Shea Weber, who had all of that, plus something I really liked a lot, and I know this sounds very archaic, but I liked his mean streak. Nobody wanted to try to take advantage of him.
Pete, come on up here and let's have a seat.
Okay.
You don't have to sit at the edge of the stage.
I like sitting on the stage, though. It's fun. It's fun.
Can you expand on the mean streak? What was it about the mean streak like? What were the qualities of his mean streak?
Okay, there was a game against Detroit, and Andreas Ilya was a defenseman who came over and hit one of Shea's teammates. Shea went over and hit him immediately, and hit him so hard he didn't play again for 18 months. And that was just with the fist. It was not with a stick, nothing like that. But let's just say that Shea fit into the physical dimensions of his father, who appeared to be somebody who, when he went deer hunting, did not use a bow, an arrow, or a gun, but he would just tackle the deer and pull him down and hold him into submission. Yes?
So when you're doing so many games, because the NHL plays a long season, what all goes into your game plan?
Number one, looking at video of the other team, as much of it as I can. And now it's so easy because of the online component, but satellite TV helps out a great deal. I'm trying to remember how I possibly prepared in the days before all the video that we have now. I was part of a cooperative in the NHL where we would take our VHS tapes and send them to the next team so they could see what was being done. And we had to sometimes do that surreptitiously because the coach did not want us giving away team secrets, but we also understood what it was like for everybody to try to get as prepared as they possibly could. And in those early years when I was in Los Angeles, there was not that much on television. So it was like what was being videoed within the individual buildings. So the preparation, probably I would like to see as many if I could. Now, it's going to be impossible this week before Dallas to see them on video ahead of time. But knowing that team pretty well from the last few years and knowing what they did to the team back in February, beating them 9-2 on Bridgestone Arena ice, actually it was a favor they did. That did two things. It had the general manager and coach cut off a concert planned to see ABBA at the Sphere in Vegas. And because of that, they then went on an 18-game unbeaten string. Great response. Thank you, Dallas. We appreciate that. That got the Predators into the playoffs. But all the preparation is just getting familiar with the other team, their combinations, both offensively and defensively, and who's going well. And sometimes that won't hold up in the game that you have against that team, but at least you know some tendencies. And it's not like you're just walking in cold, hey, got Dallas tonight, let's see what happens. Yes, ma'am.
How long would that take for someone that is not familiar with?
Probably, starting out, I would say I'd like to see several full games, and that can, a full game, and you don't have to worry about intermissions. You can fast forward through those. Probably an hour and a half per game. Yes?
How did you get comfortable with announcing and just doing all those games?
How did I get comfortable with it? As a kid, listening to all the 50,000 watt stations across the Midwest and listening to all the sports, I got very familiar with the announcers, familiar with what they were doing. Later I found out they were actually getting paid to do this. So I thought maybe that's something I should try to pursue, because as my dad would still say to this day if he were with us, sure beats working. So that's the way I got comfortable right off the bat listening to St. Louis Cardinals baseball on KMOX. Yes?
You ever had to deal with burnout, and if so, how do you deal with it?
I've not burned out yet, thankfully. And the other thing about all that is when the final horn goes in the last playoff game of the year, exhaustion sets in, so you try to sleep for about a week if you possibly can. And when they went to the Cup final against Pittsburgh in 2017, I was probably unconscious for about 8 days after the playoffs ran out. I mean, I wasn't worth a darn to anybody for the 8 days after that, and that was, the final game was June 11th. Yes, sir, right here in front.
So what is your typical preparations for a game day? Like what do you do?
Like what will I do this Thursday?
Do it?
What will I do this Thursday before the opener?
Do you try to save your voice, like not talk as much throughout the day, use hand signals, or, only yes or no, or just what's your preparation?
If I'm sick, I might have to do that, but generally speaking, game day, I avoid after 5 p.m. coffee because all that does is dehydrate you. So I usually take 1 or 2 bottles. This is a commercial endorsement for Gatorade G2 and the sugar-free version thereof. And I keep that open next to me on my desk during the course of the game and keep putting that down. So this Thursday morning, I will go in to the rink at about 9 o'clock. I will go on the Chase McCabe and Big Joe show at 9:30 from Barrel House. Hope they don't have too many barrels open there at that point in time. Then go downstairs and watch the morning skate. Hope to see both teams. I will see, I know the Stars general manager Jim Nill, and we will exchange old stories because we haven't seen them all season yet. And then their announcers, Josh Bogorad and Darryl Ray, to get their estimation on how the team has performed in the preseason. I will record with head coach Andrew Brunette for the pregame show, go about 3.5, 4 minutes with him, then go home, and the most important part of the day, can anybody guess what that might be?
Nap.
Thank you. The nap is highly important, and if I don't get it, you're going to hear me in the second period go, well, here's the face-off, and I am awfully tired right now, and I can't keep my eyes open. So the nap is a very important part of the day, without any question. Yes?
Covering hockey since the late 70s into now, is there any sort of strategy you try to go in? Because the sport has evolved so much in that time span.
Has it ever?
Is there any sort of thing where you have to go into a new year being like, oh, we have less of the big hitter stuff now, we have more of the flashy skaters? Is there something about staying modern with the game, trying to stay ahead of what the game is going to give you each season?
I don't know if I can go ahead of it, but I can stay even with it. And what I would say is that somebody a couple months ago sent me YouTube video of a game I did with Los Angeles and Edmonton. The final was 10-8. Anyway, boy, the action must have been incredible.
That's 80s hockey.
But I look at it now, and it moved so slowly. It was so deliberate. Now the game is so fast. We used to be able to actually tell stories during games. Since they accelerated the game, got the hurry-up rules going after we had the lockout in 03-04, and we used to also have a lot of glass breakages, so that allowed for the chance to tell stories too. But now the glass doesn't break. The best night we ever had with that was one night in San Jose, where we had 1 glass breakage per period. And the last one was right over the top of the San Jose goaltender who had just been pulled from the game on the bench. You talk about insult to injury, and there is Steve Shields getting showered with broken shards of the plexiglass right over his head. Thankfully, he had kept his mask and helmet on, so he was protected from that. So yes, we have seen the speed of the game just evolve to the point where sometimes you wonder, is this game just a succession of professional bull riding 8-second clips, and you're trying to keep it going? My buddy owns the PBR team in Nashville, so and we go back many years ago to baseball in Buffalo. So, but that was that is, all the sports have evolved. With the exception, I think, I have not enjoyed the evolution of soccer as much, where the soccer coaches, they have one goal, and that is to have no goals. So they play so defensively, it gets almost to the point where it's like watching paint dry. Anything else? Yes.
So fighting seems to be part of the sport. Fans love it. So why do you think that other sports it's not as acceptable as it is in hockey? They kind of frown upon it more. Hockey is just part of it.
Hockey is always given this explanation. It's like a pressure cooker, and that is one way to relieve the pressure that builds up from the constant battle throughout the game. And I think that probably is why they have done it. We don't have as much as we used to. There was another YouTube video that was sent me. Before they brought overtime, overtime was a part of the NHL until World War II. And in World War II, the teams had to make the next train to get out of town on time. Well, so they cut overtime out. They finally figured out World War II was over in the early 80s and brought overtime back to the game. And we then came back to this situation. But we had Kings and the Flyers had these unbelievable brawls. As a matter of fact, I did a game one night, you can look it up, in March of 1979. Randy Holt set the single game penalty minute record with 67 minutes in penalties. How long is the game? 60 minutes. So that was, and it broke the previous record by 20 minutes. Randy got his last penalties, a triple game misconduct, for trying to double dribble the head of Ken Linsman of the Flyers off the ice. And so that was a period of time where, now that game, because of all those stoppages, for all the brawls, no overtime, took 4 hours to complete. I mean, the broadcasters were tired after it. If you could imagine what the players were like. Steve Jensen got involved in a fight with Mel Bridgman, just totally on the periphery of all of that, and all of a sudden that became a bell ringer. I mean, they rang each other's bell. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask, I'm from Nashville, so I know like the Predators have one of the best like home environments, but like what are some other teams that you think have like a similar great home field advantage?
A great home environment was, believe it or not, in a town that's trying to get back to the playoffs for the first time in years, but Ottawa. The intensity of that crowd is something special. What we have now in Madison Square Garden, since they have renovated that, and it should be pretty good, right? They spent $1.5 billion over the 3 summers rebuilding Madison Square Garden. That is tremendous. Los Angeles is great in what is now Crypto.com Arena. And another incredible home environment in another team that's trying to get back to the playoffs is San Jose. Terry Crisp and I were once doing our stand-up before a playoff game there in 06 or 07. And if we could not, even with earpieces, we couldn't hear when the other one was done speaking. We didn't speak till we saw the other's lips stop moving. So that's loud. That's very, very loud. But those are the buildings that stand out the most to me. Yes, right here.
What's been your favorite memory or moment of your career as an announcer?
My favorite memory? Well, it was not Scott Norwood's field goal that went wide right at the end of Super Bowl 25. It was Mike Fisher's triple overtime goal against San Jose in 16 that tied that series up. And that was when, I don't know if you've heard the replay of that, but Brent Peterson just exclaimed so loudly after that, but I'll give you the backstory behind that. He was being squeezed from behind by Terry Crisp in celebration, and so all the air left Brent's body because of that squeeze. All of it. Yeah. Yes, sir?
I had to ask why you enjoy going back to Buffalo so much.
20 years there, and matter of fact, part of one reason I'm going to Chicago is so I can see Marv Levy in a couple of weeks. And he, and I have family in Chicago too. He is 99 years old, still sharp as can be. You know who else is 99? Basically the same birthday, maybe the greatest comic mind of all time. Mel Brooks turned 99 this summer also. But Marv, and he also stays current. He was just in Buffalo with some of the old guys, with Jim Kelly, with he was there with Cornelius Bennett, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, Steve Tasker. Those guys get together as often as they possibly can. So yeah, that spirit is part of. And the other night I had an ex-Sabres defenseman as my guest at the rink. He was just driving through town in his SUV, just turned 60, so he wanted to begin taking it easy in life rather than going out and blocking shots. Yeah.
Who was the defenseman?
Jimmy Hofford.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I was trying to think of who it would be.
Yeah, Jim Hofford, 60 years of age. He's still trailing Marv Levy by 39 years. Any other questions? You raising your hand or you're just getting into your sweater? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything unexpected when you came to Nashville, like that surprised you? You know.
Yes, not being able to understand the people speaking to me. It took me a while to get accustomed to it. And then my wife and I are looking at each other. Why are these people being so nice? What do they want from us? So that was, and believe me, we were somewhat accustomed to it because Claudia's parents lived in Knoxville for about 20 years beforehand. So we would visit quite a bit. And the reason I came to Nashville was because it would make family celebrations a heck of a lot easier than an 11-hour drive down from Western New York to Eastern Tennessee. So that was the funniest thing really for me with talking about not understanding. So my broadcast partner, I don't know if you were aware, but was Terry Crisp from the outset. And he had just moved into town and he's calling to get his utilities turned on. And I only heard his half of the telephone conversation from the arena offices. And all I heard was, "Pardon me, excuse me, come again?" And that's just to get his lights turned on. Yes?
From an organizational standpoint, what do you think the Predators have done a really good job at as an organization? Everything from marketing to picking up players, and then something that you think they could improve on?
Well, marketing has never been a problem for them. They have done a great job of attracting people to the rink. I think that when on July 1st, that first hour of the free agency period which opened up, and Barry Trotz could be compared to a drunken sailor at that point in time, spending $111 million at least to bring in free agents. That was absolutely incredible. Now the money became available because the Haslams sold Flying J and Pilot, and all of a sudden that money came into the coffers and it was getting spent almost as quickly as it came in.
Yeah.
But not just getting one 40-goal scorer in Steven Stamkos off the Lightning, and then you take a player off the Lightning, you weaken that team. Then Jonathan Marchessault off the Vegas Golden Knights, another 40-goal scorer and another Stanley Cup winner. Brady Shea, a 6'7" defenseman who is under 30 years of age, nice deal for him, $7 million a year, and then re-signing goaltender Jussi Saros. I mean, this club is perhaps the best preseason condition it ever has had. And I think that Barry Trotz learned a lot working as a coach for David Poile in the first 14 years of the franchise, and now learned a lot as well from his time with the Capitals, where he won a Stanley Cup as coach, and with the New York Islanders, where he coached under Lou Lamoriello. I think he learned an awful lot. What I'd like to see improve more is just more free beer. I think that would be a great improvement. Yes, sir.
I know NHL, they're one of the leagues that continue to expand.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they'll continue to add more cities, and what cities do you think will be next?
I think they are going to give a third try to Atlanta. Atlanta lost 2 teams for no reason of their own or no fault of their own. The first time, which are now the Calgary Flames, in 1980, they were lost because there was so much oil money available in southern Alberta that they gave the Thrashers owners, or excuse me, the Flames owners, a deal they could not refuse. Then the Thrashers had a very chaotic ownership front office combination. They didn't know if they preferred the Hawks to the Thrashers or not, so that team became free and ended up in Winnipeg. So now the important thing is the location of the building, and it looks like Gwinnett, where the ballpark essentially is now, is where the hockey building is going to be. And Anson Carter, who is on the national telecast working for TNT, is looking to be the guy who is going to lead the third NHL team into Atlanta. General Sherman did not do it all. So this is the way things are working. Will there be further expansion than that? I think so. I'm also looking for Houston to get in there. Houston, I mean, professional hockey in the United States. Which state has the most professional hockey teams? Professional, no, well, no. Professional meaning minor league as well, and that would be Texas. Anything else? Yes. Cameramen are allowed to ask questions.
Do you watch, do you ever just take a break, or do you just focus on NHL? Do you watch any other sports, or keep up with any other sports, and we need a break or something like that?
I am a baseball nut. I did 16 seasons of AAA baseball every day, so I certainly watch that. I keep in contact with my old broadcast comrades from AAA baseball. One of them, my former partner, is the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Greg Brown, and he has been with the Pirates now since '93, and he just set the baseball record for the most losses announced by one announcer. The Pirates, I think, have had 3 or 4 playoff games in his 23 years there. So no one has been tested more severely than him. And because of my time in pro football, and I was in basketball as well, I did the Seattle Supersonics, now the Oklahoma City Thunder. I did them, and then I also filled in on Los Angeles Lakers basketball when some guy named Magic Johnson was a rookie and won the NBA title. So yeah, I follow the other sports without any question. Plus, I love the indoor lacrosse league. I would like to see indoor lacrosse come to Nashville because people say, well, hockey rules are so tough to learn. I say, well, then bring in indoor lacrosse because obviously there are no rules there. And they talk, you know, about the metal sticks or composite sticks in hockey. In lacrosse, they still use wooden sticks. Why? Because they can inflict more damage on the opponent than a lightweight metal stick. Other questions? Yes?
With Seattle getting a new hockey team, how do you think the Kraken is doing?
They're doing very well marketing, without any question. They made the playoffs their second year, did not last year, and they signed a defenseman away from the Florida Panthers, Brandon Montour, for a mega deal. And I like that sort of move because they know where they need to improve. And they've done fairly well offensively. And in goal, you know, the Kraken play in my old building in Seattle that has been renovated at a cost of about, I think, almost $1 billion. I mean, the floor where the ice stands now was not there because it's now 20 feet below where the original floor had been for basketball and for hockey in that building. Yes, over here. Go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You first.
So out of all your calls, like, that you've done, what would you say is like the weirdest call or the weirdest play you've seen on the ice?
Or maybe just any sport?
For hockey.
Okay. Weirdest call by an official?
Like just play in general, like what you saw when announcing it.
I probably would have to say that looking at a play one night in Anaheim, it was a delay whistle. And you can't do anything until the other team touches the puck with their stick. The linesman got tired waiting for somebody to touch the puck, so he grabbed the player's stick and touched the puck. So he finally could get a whistle after everybody just sitting around and watching all that. So that was the one that probably sticks out in my mind the most. And just the fact it was in Anaheim with Wild Wing bouncing around through the rafters, that made it special. You had a question too.
So if you could go back to when you started in this career, is there any advice you would give yourself, with something you've learned over the years?
Just know and remember how to have fun, because that's what attracted me to it to begin with. And if you don't have fun, well, it's kind of like Barry asked me about butterflies. If you don't have those and you aren't having fun, why the heck are you doing it? Yes, in the back.
Is there any strategy you might have? I know Predators have a lot of expectations going this season, but you don't always have expectations going in. Is there any sort of thing when you're following a team for a long time and you get attached to them? Do you have to sort of keep your emotions out to a degree,
To divorce myself from my emotions?
Well, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
If things go bad, you can still kind of cheer up the audience when you're talking, or if you win a huge game and make the playoffs, you don't accidentally swear on TV,
And that with me, that could happen. Have you watched the movie Major League?
Yes.
I'd have to say that Bob Uecker's character in there is the perfect embodiment of the question you just asked me. Tonight's game is brought to you by, oh hell, I can't find it. Nobody cares anyway. Yeah, it's important to be able to keep yourself separate from that and not get so intrinsically wound up that you have no perspective whatsoever. Yes?
I know you said you were a big baseball fanatic. Do you think the major leagues are going to bring a team to Nashville soon?
I don't know about soon, but to do that, they're going to have to find somebody with the money to build a major league ballpark. And I don't know where that's going to happen. I don't think auctioning off the Vanderbilt goalposts is going to provide enough money to do that. Maybe it would, but no, they need the money, and I'm not buying the story of the Chicago White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf trying to play Nashville off against the city of Chicago to get him, I want to say, another new ballpark, because he's had one now they tore down my boyhood park, Comiskey Park, 30-some years ago. And I still have, just so you know, I still have a Comiskey Park brick in my house in Nashville. So I used to study in the center field bleachers at Comiskey Park. Don't tell my professors that, but that's where I picked up knowledge, sitting in those bleachers and watching the fans dump beer on the players down on the field. Anybody else?
Were you there for Disco Demolition Night?
I was not, but that was 1979. By that point, I was into my first year in Los Angeles, but I've spoken frequently about it with Mike Veck, who was in charge of that particular promotion. And he regrets, Mike will go to his grave thinking he forced his father to an early grave by talking him into doing that.
Yeah, be sure and Google that if you...
Disco Demolition Night.
Yeah, quite a night in Chicago.
And then another one, same era, not 5 years earlier, 10-cent beer night in Cleveland.
What could go wrong, right?
Yeah, nothing could go wrong. My boyhood buddy, I'm from Galesburg, Illinois, Jimmy Sundberg, was his rookie year catching in the big leagues with the Texas Rangers. And he was playing for Billy Martin, and that is combustible enough right there, when 10-cent beer night resulted in the Cleveland fans rushing the field, and somebody ran out to right field and tried to steal the guy who would be MVP of the league that year, Jeff Burroughs, tried to steal his cap. And then Billy led all the players out of the visiting dugout with baseball bats to go out and defend him and allow him to keep his cap. Yes, sir?
Sports betting and sports.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? You think that hurts the game, or is it getting out of control?
I think it's getting out of control. I think that the man who just died last week and has had to pay the price for betting, Pete Rose, And boy, was that amazing. He was in Williamson County 2 days before he passed. But he was the first guy, when they legalized betting in Ohio, they had him place the first bet. That was incredible to me. But the betting is such that, I mean, how many years and for how long did we hear, you can't have betting in sports. So Las Vegas, Nevada can never get a pro team. Well, now they've got a hockey club, they've got a football club, soon to get a baseball team, and Lord knows what else they're going to get. But does anybody feel like and when you turn on a sporting event, it seems the percentage of gambling ads is as high as one can possibly tolerate. It's unbelievable, just unbelievable to me. So if it was bad, and certainly was bad for Pete Rose, I think it's affecting some others. Yes?
Who's been your favorite player to watch, either like from the Preds or wherever?
My favorite player to watch was, and don't get the names confused here now, but was when in '07 we got Peter Forsberg from the Philadelphia Flyers in a deal in February. We used to say, European players are soft. They don't compete that hard. Well, not Peter Forsberg. We used to say, it's like we think he was really born in Winnipeg. That's how tough he is. He competes greatly. And then another guy that he was a teammate with in Nashville, Paul Correa. Correa picked Nashville as a free agent. He interviewed the Predators rather than vice versa, and came in the summer of '05. 2 great years, 2 fantastic years here, and both those guys now are in the Hockey Hall of Fame, so Shea will be joining them in just a few weeks. Yes?
Do you have like a favorite announcer yourself, like anybody you see nowadays that you really enjoy?
Nowadays, I got to tell you, Bob Wischusen, who does a lot of the ESPN hockey, this is a vacation for him to do hockey. Can you imagine being the radio voice of the New York Jets? So he's enjoying hockey greatly. Joe Buck, fantastic announcer. I think that he has gotten out from underneath the shadow that was cast by his Hall of Fame father, Jack. And Jack, if you look up on YouTube some of the great calls from sports guys of all time, his call of Kirk Gibson's 1988 World Series home run, I think is one of the best I've ever heard. I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw. He did that greatly. And then just the other night was the Mets comeback against the Brewers. Yeah, and that home run by Pete Alonso came on the exact date, obviously different year, as Russ Hodges' call of the Giants' Bobby Thompson winning the pennant for them on October 3rd of 1951. So here, and then we had October 3rd, 74. The National League team in New York, Howie Rose did a beautiful job with that. Is there a question over here? Okay. I'm like an auctioneer. I'm looking for people to flinch and put a bid in.
I'm just curious, so Pete gets an idea. How many of you have been to a Predators game?
Yeah. Outstanding. And are considering going back. Okay.
So Pete, what would you tell, you put on your marketing hat, those that haven't been, with this team that's going to be on the ice beginning Thursday night, with the additions, with the style of play, how can you get them to the rink?
Well, I think the style of play and Andrew Burnett, the way he utilizes those players, should get you into the building and then maybe get you to decide and to commit to coming back again and again. This is, I'm not going to say it's a wide open style of play, but it's definitely high tension on the attack. They're going to be attacking the other team on a pretty great deal. And I'm not trying to say this is like what's going on in the Middle East right now, but you get the idea.
One of the things I want to mention is, and as Pete knows, we have a Govs hockey team now, club hockey team, and quite a few of you guys in the audience or students are part of the production of those broadcasts, and we did the opening games against Eastern Kentucky a couple of weeks ago.
Just before we were here for the
Yeah,
game
for the Gold Star game, yeah. They're at Ole Miss this weekend. They're back home next weekend, the 18th and 19th with UAB. But Pete, we're talking about him being the voice, not only radio, but for years, Pete was the television voice, simulcast TV and radio.
Now there's a challenge.
So tell us a little bit about that and about working as a team with your production crew for television or radio.
The team members on radio are not as important, I don't think, as they are on television, because in television, you are in many ways enslaved to the picture that is on the monitor, the pictures that are going out. So you better make sure you are at least captioning those or doing something to further explain what they might be seeing. Now, the challenge with the simulcast, we could not say, because still with cable TV at the initial Fox Sports Net, and now, right now it's Bally. I think it's going to become one of the betting sites.
FanDuel.
Yeah, FanDuel I think is the one that's going to become. But you can't say, as you see here, you describe on the left side or on the right side, and this is what we saw. And then the one time you will say something like, along those lines of, we'll be looking at a replay to see should a goal have counted, did it beat the clock, and all those things. So you have to constantly keep your language in mind, and not just swearing language, but the daylight that you're trying to make for the viewer, and keeping in mind as well with the simulcast, you're dealing with the radio audience that has to have some idea of what the heck is going on too. So explain, explain, and explain. And that's what I would say is the biggest part of it all.
How important is that relationship with you and your producer and director from the television side, of them keeping you so you know what's on the screen or what's coming
up?
You work
yes.
in sync. Yeah.
I think most important actually is what's coming up,
right,
and what we're going to go to. And sometimes you wonder about the storyboard aspect of it when you're going to something that I think has no application whatsoever, but still you don't want to try to make them look bad. So go along with them and saying, you know, and here's a picture of a fan picking his right nostril, because that's happened on occasion.
So one thing you may not know when Pete's broadcasting, not like basketball where you're courtside, he is up top in the top of the arena. So when you're up there, how often do you use those two eyes and use that monitor? What's the...
I'm using these more frequently. I just got new glasses. I got to use.
Right.
Just made the expenditure. But in some buildings, for example, and I'm not going there anymore, but in Edmonton, they put us up at the top of the building against the far rear wall. Without a monitor, you don't have a chance. There's no way. It's similar in New Jersey. Where else? But like Los Angeles, I'm only a third of the way up, and I've got all this space in the booth, and great-looking women walking right around. So that's pretty nice too. I hate to be sexist, but I got to tell you the truth. That's just the way it is. But sometimes and we're getting further and further away. Now in the NBA, for the most part, those guys are calling games and they have all reverse angle. In other words, the TV cameras are on the opposite side of the floor. So when they go right to left, you're not seeing right to left, you're seeing left to right. So I don't know how they battle through that. I really don't.
One thing I want to ask about, we mentioned Govs hockey, but
yeah,
and you've done games from the F&M Bank Arena here in Clarksville, the Gold Star games, but I know they're hoping...
And I've also done Nashville Cats games there.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right, with Eli Gold.
Yes. By the way, when Eli was calling Alabama games, they didn't lose to Vanderbilt. Yes.
Right. What about minor league hockey here in Clarksville? I know that is a goal for the ownership group to get a team here. Do you see that happening?
Yes, I do. I think that'd be absolutely fantastic. And then you're going to have more wacky nights during the course of the year to go and enjoy yourselves. And I'm wondering if we're going to think that that building was constructed too small in a very brief period of time.
Because now with Govs hockey, there's the Red River Spartans are playing there, and hopefully minor league hockey coming soon. I know that's got to please you over the last 26 years being in Nashville to see more sheets of ice that the game take off in Middle Tennessee.
And it has been taking off. It continues to take off. And I like, now Vanderbilt's coach, Clark Lee, used to be the bullpen catcher for the Nashville Sounds. His father was the team physician. But when he came back here to coach at Vandy, he was asking me about youth hockey for his sons who had begun playing in South Bend when he was an assistant coach at Notre Dame. And so he's got them firmly ingrained in the local hockey culture in Nashville. And I love seeing that. Absolutely love it. Also, when Thomas Bernstein was coaching the Vanderbilt club hockey team, it might have been an illegal recruiting move, Barry. I brought Jack Armstrong, who was a friend of mine who was coaching Niagara University, now does the color on the Toronto Raptors, brought his son down to a luncheon meeting with Thomas so he could get enrolled right away and play Vanderbilt hockey.
All right. Any other questions from anyone? I want to mention as we wrap up, Pete, I forget, you probably have lost count too, how many times he's won the Tennessee Sportscaster of the Year from the National Sports Media Association. But I know that's an organization that's near and dear to your heart. If you could tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to go back behind the curtain again. I've got a few photos I want to show.
Oh, okay, great. So the great Wizard of Oz is now going back behind the curtain again and is going to throw some things up here on the screen for you. But NSMA, I think, has been a fantastic organization. I like the fact that a few years ago they began branching out and starting on campus in chapters for them. Chris Berman, yeah. Chris has been a great backer of the organization almost from the very start. And I gave Chris, and you can ask him, once at Super Bowl Media Week, I gave him a sweatshirt. Buffalo, a drinking town with a football problem. And he absolutely loved that. Look at this group. We're at the train station there in Salisbury, North Carolina. Most of us had not been arrested yet.
It was early.
Yeah, it was early in the evening, yes, at the meal gathering there for all that. Man, oh man.
And that's our group from a couple of years ago that went and attended. Familiar with that guy?
Yes.
Ernie Johnson, TNT Sports. Those are two good buddies there.
And this guy, big hockey fan.
Yeah, he is. Linda Cohn, big hockey fan.
Who I just talked to yesterday. She's going to be doing some Kraken hockey games on TV this year. And I think she's got one next week.
Bob Costas, you may have heard him last night on the Yankee playoff game of the Royals.
He got his first job in hockey with the old Syracuse Blazers of the North American Hockey League. And he told a great story. Oh, there is Bill Raftery. Guy has no fun in life whatsoever.
If you're a big fan of college basketball in the Final Four, onions, Bill Raftery. And then Jay Billis as well of ESPN, part of their college basketball.
If you get in trouble, Jay can help you out because he's a lawyer.
Yeah. And then the legend himself, Dickie V.
Dickie V. If the guy had some energy,
I know it.
He's really laid back and can hardly get his thoughts out.
But we show you those photos as they're part of the NSMA conference that Pete goes and accepts his award every year. It's either he or Mike Keith every year is the Tennessee Sportscaster of the Year. But we have a student chapter of the NSMA. We've had it now for about 10 years. And
is it that long already?
Yeah, it's been a long run, and we've had a lot of students. You saw some of the photos, but you get a chance to meet these legends like Pete Weber and those you saw on the screen. So we want you to get involved. We want you to join. I think right now it's $45 student membership for the year. So if you are interested in that, I'll mention it again to my class, but if you want to see me, we have our own chapter, and we want to start doing more events like bringing Mike Keith of the Titans, doing some Zooms with different NBA announcers and things like that. So we want you to join.
I tell you, and I don't think you will regret it. You always talk about how to get established in this business, and contacts are absolutely huge. And you get started there, do that, LinkedIn.
There you go.
And you're in pretty good shape.
Any final questions before we wrap up our session?
I have one. Is that a Round Rock Express cap?
No.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
Laredo.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, anything from anyone? All right, let's give a round of applause again to our guest, Pete Weber. We thank him. And we thank you guys for coming. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.